Hi guys, my name's Doug. Welcome to my messy garage. Today we're going to be making a gimbal mount bracket to fit onto my friend's 2016 Bearcat 7000 XT. Hey guys, so here we are out where the snow machines are stored, and we're going to be installing this GPS unit onto a Bearcat. This is Tom, a friend of mine, the guy that owns the snow machine, and he's going to tell you a little bit about the machine.
So what we're doing is we're mounting a 9-inch Garmin screen to a 2016 Bearcat 7000 XT. The advantage to the Garmin is topo maps for Canada. In our particular case, we do a lot of backcountry riding. This is a 20-inch wide machine. I spend 99.999% of my time off trail in the backcountry. So having that 9-inch screen right here in low weather days will be very nice. So we're going to go ahead. We've pre-mounted the gimbal bracket to the handlebar mount that Doug has made. And from a previous mount that I had an old Hummingbird graph mounted before just for ice fishing. I do a lot of that as well. So this is the old bracket here. From mounting that bracket before, we know in order to be able to mount this bracket and have it hold correctly here, we actually have to build up the handlebar mount with 2 washers on each bolt. So we're going to go ahead and remove these bolts. These are a T40, I believe, T40 Torx. So we'll just take these off. The thing to keep in mind with this, and most snowmobile handlebars these days, the riser is built out of aluminum, so you want to be very, very careful when you're torquing these down so as to not strip out your riser. Okay, so like I had mentioned here, we got to just feed the bolts through the new bracket. For some reason the front holes are a little tight. Maybe due to the bend in the bracket. You drilled the holes prior to the bend?
Yeah.
That's likely why. So if we absolutely need to, we'll just resize the hole a little bit here. I was able to get the first one to go just by threading it in here.
Now, would those bolts be metric or would they be standard?
I believe these are metric. Yeah, most of the stuff on this thing is metric, just in the manufacturing processes with tolerances and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, these bolts here, in order for there to be clearance between the bracket and the actual riser without bending things, we're going to build these up with 2 washers on each bolt.
You can kind of see here, if it'll focus on it, there's a knuckle in the middle. We need to build up so that the plate can go straight across.
And fortunately, we know from the previous install too that these bolts are actually more than long enough to reach into the riser and bolt in correctly. Basically what I'm doing is just the 2 bolts in the front for now with the 2 washers, just so that we can hold everything. As you can see, the bolts are captive in there. Washers are on the bolts themselves, so we'll just flip this over and carefully feed it through the mountain strap here on the handlebars without losing the washers. And we'll just drop that into the riser like so. You don't want to tighten them up at first. You just want to get them so they're just holding in there like so. Is what we have to do now is carefully feed these other 2 washers in from the bottom like this and line them up. We'll get that guy started. Okay, he's started. Now we're not going to lose our washers out of that one. And we'll just go ahead and do the last one here. That's why you don't want to snug everything down. See, I got that a little bit too tight now. I can't fit the washers in there. So I'm going to back this guy off just a little bit. There we go. Just carefully drop that in there. Just like that. Now again, I'm not going to snug these down just yet because as you can see, my handlebars have moved. Everything's kind of moved here. We're just going to get things started. Still loose. We can still roll the handlebars at this point. Now I'm going to sit on the snowmobile and kind of get a comfortable spot before adjusting these and tightening them down for the final time. So we'll straighten our handlebars out. I like to ride, this is a very rider forward machine, so typically riding like this with the knees on the gas tank, I like my handlebars tipped back just a little bit like that. So we're going to go ahead and hold them like that. And we'll just snug this down until the handlebars stay where we want them. We want to do each one a little bit at a time evenly. So we get even pressure and bolt penetration into the riser. You don't want to put a lot of heat on these or torque, just because, like I previously mentioned, that's aluminum. The riser, the bolts are steel, and we don't want to strip out the riser. There we go. Things don't move, everything's nice and snug. We have our gimbal bracket mounted now. Now we just have to put the bail mount for the Garmin on there. I've pre-ran the wire for the power up here. Don't know that I'm going to necessarily use this for sonar at this point. You can buy an ice transducer for these, so I could technically have an ice fishing graph mounted to my handlebars. It's not normally how I fish. I like to bounce around, hole hop. I'm not typically sitting in one spot for too long. So we're just going to leave it as a graph at this particular point. Like I had mentioned, I'd pre-wired in the power wire here if you want to see how I did that on this 2016 Bearcat. The thing I like about this snowmobile versus some of the other brands out there is it still has a conventional hood. It's easy to access everything. The battery's in a good spot. Basically what I did here is I just took a positive and negative wire, ran it up to an automotive connector, and here we have the Garmin harness plugged into that automotive connector. Everything's heat shrinked and not for waterproofing. And then I just zip tied it to the mount here. Very nice, easy installation up to the handlebars. And then I made sure I left enough wire here so that when you're turning the handlebars, the wire will move with the graph on the bail mount, and there won't be any binding. And that's just the nature of the beast with this. And there you have it. We'll put the graph on there and fire it up. Okay, so here we have the 9-inch Garmin screen. It's already stuck into the bail mount. We'll just pop that off. Some guys complain about these Garmins falling out of there. I found if you drop it in and set it back till it clicks, it'll actually stay. And when the snowmobile is out and about, you can either leave the bail mount on there like that, or just take the whole works off and just leave the gimbal bracket. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet with that. The reality is we store these inside, so quite likely this will remain on. Okay, everything kind of drops in place there. There you go. We'll tighten up the gimbal bracket now how we want. Now when Doug built me this mount here, he kind of approximated the bend on it. As you can see here, we've got some clearance issues, so we're likely going to have to tweak that a little bit, bend it down just a little bit more to allow some clearance for the mountain strap so that I can get the cover off, which as you can see, there's some clearance issues there. So we'll pause the video right here and do a little bit of tweaking and come back. Okay, so we found some clearance issues here between the mountain strap and the gimbal mount, and basically the bend of the bracket here. So with a little bit of tweaking, we were able to get this to go in there. And then also too, I didn't have this mounted correctly in the bail mount here. I found that it's actually easier to put it in the bail mount and then install it in the gimbal bracket. Just like that. Okay, there we go. So it's nice and tight. We're going to go ahead and put the power wire to the bail mount in the back. It's keyed specifically, so just keep in mind when you install anything on the Garmin with these twist lock connectors here, don't force those pins, because if you do, you could ruin your bail mount. We don't want that. Okay, so we have the key lined up. Everything should go nice and easy. You shouldn't have to force anything. This just goes in here hand tight like so. And there we have it. Now we're ready to do a power test here.
Okay, let's put some power to this thing.
Okay, so go ahead and remove the protective cover. with my mountain strap. I just need to pull that away like so. Just set that on the handle for a second here, and let's see what we got. Everything looks to be coming up normally. I have an Echomap 95 SV with Canada Lakes. That's the Canadian version of Navionics mapping with 1 foot contours. I think there's 15 or 17,000 lakes, don't quote me on that. You can find that on the Garmin website.
The US equivalent model would be the 93 SV.
So we're going to go ahead and agree. Here we are. This thing has an ambient light sensor, so the screen's going to be really bright with the camera lights on it. But we're going to go to charts, and then we're going to go to our navigation chart. And of course it brings up rough GPS position right now. Might not acquire in the building here because we have a metal roof. One thing that I'm really excited about for this particular screen here is this. So Topo Maps for Canada goes in the SD card slot here, and it gives you topo for all of Canada on this screen. So as we're adventuring in the backcountry, you get to see the old roads and things like that, points of interest, contours, land contours, and things that you wouldn't normally get with the screen as you see it right now. So if we go ahead and scroll over to the lake, as you can see, Rainy Lake is our home water. Interestingly enough, now if we go to home, go back to charts, go to the fishing chart, bring it up. Here we go. So now the cool thing with the Navionics or G3 mapping that's installed in these graphs now is you can depth highlight. So certain areas, like I have the shallow water contours marked as red. Doesn't matter so much on a snowmobile, but when you're fishing, it's nice to know where the shallow water is. So as you zoom in on areas here, and this is really handy as well for ice fishing. So you can zoom in on this reef here, and you can see there's some pretty aggressive steep contours here, and it kind of shows you. So you can change the highlight range. Say you're catching fish in 26 feet of water off the edge of this here. You can actually change your highlight range so that when you drill holes, I can pull up on the snowmobile, line myself up in this green zone here, and be precise where I drill my holes. And it just cuts down the learning curve ice fishing in the wintertime. So go ahead and zoom out of this now. And then we'll go back to home, and then we'll reinstall the Garmin map card. Close that up. Then we'll go back into the charts, and we'll go into the navigation chart here. So it's reading the memory card.
Do be very careful about what buttons you press on this page. It is possible you could overwrite your...
Yeah, by pushing copy built-in map or create the active captain memory card. I'm not really familiar with the settings on these, so we don't want to create the active captain memory card for sure, because it'll overwrite, I believe, the data on your Topo Map card that you paid money for, so you don't want to do that.
You can just do manage user data.
Yeah. Here it goes to a bunch of stuff. You can delete the files, which we obviously don't want to do. The file type, I believe that's an admin file, so it might not allow you to delete it. We're not going to find out. We're just going to get out of here. So now we'll go back to the charts. We'll go back to the navigation chart. Okay, now here's where it really shows all of the contours. It shows all the swamps in green. It shows the depth contours. We got to get rid of that smartphone thing. I'll have to work on that a little bit. You know, we have some waypoints here. Picnic site, that's not something that's added on here. That just shows off the Topo Maps themselves. So, you know, if we scroll around here, this is pretty much our stomping grounds. We snowmobile all over back in here and that. So, you know, we'll zoom in here. So it even lists some of the names of the points and whatnot on backwater lakes here. And one thing that I'm really excited about is this. It shows roads. So this green, thin green line here is actually a road, and it's actually called the Cedar Narrows Road due to this narrows right here between Esox and I believe it's Grassy Lake. Let's find out. Esox and Gussie Lake, sorry. So very cool when you're touring around in the backcountry. I don't know that I'll always need to use this for navigation, but it's just nice if you find some snowmobile tracks or an old portage trail or something like that and get going cross country. If you want to really know the name of the lake where you're at, this will be a handy tool for that. One other thing that I should also point out, somebody was giving me a little bit of flack about buying a 9-inch screen for the handlebars of a snowmobile. Well, how are you going to see over that? The fact of the matter is this screen is actually low enough right now. I'll just show you here quickly with the camera. I will not have any trouble whatsoever looking over this and managing the graph. Not necessarily while I'm moving, but it's not in the way at all, mounted to the handlebars. As you can see, it'll turn with the handlebars just fine. And yeah, it's going to be great. Looking forward to it. Now we just need to get some cold weather, get the lakes to freeze, and get some snow.
Okay guys, that's the installation of a Garmin Echomap 95 SV on a 2016 Bearcat 7000 XT. Thanks for watching this one, and on to the next mess. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed, please consider hitting the subscribe button. And for more great content from Doug's Messy Garage, select the video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. Thanks for watching.